Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Andrew. My co-host for today, you can see on the bed behind me, my cat Shadow. Unfortunately, he is neglecting his duties, so I guess I will have to take it from here. What do you expect from a cat? Now, if you have not watched both of my videos, they're titled the same thing, The Church's Morality, Pope Pius XII, and the Reichskondkordat. You can still understand what I'm talking about in this video, you will just have less of an understanding. If you want, feel free to go back and watch those. Both of those links will be in the description box below. They are not the same video. They are two different videos on the topic, and there's a reason for doing that, and I'm going to explain that here now. So I want to explain why I did what I did by telling you a story. Now, a long time ago, in a completely different world and time to now, I went to university. My plan was to get into teacher's college, to teach high school, and to teach high school you need 2 teachables, and my 2 teachables were going to be geography and history. So I was in second year at the time, and I took a modern European history class. Now, my professor absolutely loved World War II. And he admitted that he spent way too much time every year talking about World War II, but it was an important event in history. It was super relevant to the class, and because he wrote the exam questions every year, he could basically get away with it, so a lot of that chunk went into World War II. Now, every week for that class, we had two classes each week, and so on day 1 he had a lecture with a title similar to the one I used for my video. It wasn't exactly the same, but basically like Pope Pius XII and the Reichskondkordat. He finished the lecture and concluded, similarly to how I did in my first video, that the church was morally wrong for making such a deal with Hitler, and a lot of bad things followed that were the church's fault. Now, obviously, his lecture was 2 hours, so it was in way more detail than I could provide in 15-20 minutes, but it was a very compelling argument. So, second class that week, we go in, and it's just a normal lecture, so we think nothing of it. And next week, we go back, and the same title is on the board, Pope Pius XII and the Reichskondkordat. Now we think maybe this was just for a previous class that he was teaching, maybe it's just a mistake, but it was no mistake. We got our 2-hour lecture, and this time he concluded that by doing what they did, the Catholic Church did good and significantly helped during World War II. Now we were all confused, and at the end of every lecture he left some time for questions if we wanted to ask. So someone raised their hand and he called on them and they asked, well, last week you told us that the church was bad and immoral for what it did. This week you're telling us that what it did was righteous and good. Which one was right? And he smiled and said neither and dismissed the class without another word. Now, that week he had a lot of people visit him during his office hours, because, well, a lot of people were confused, which he actually enjoyed because, well, a lot of professors don't get many student visits during their office hours. And so it was, and he said every year it's the exact same, and it's always enjoyable. But he didn't say anything. He said, "Don't worry, I will explain this in class." So next class we go in, and he explained 3 things to us. And so number 1, he explained that most people are going to use historical facts about history to prove their argument, while ignoring the inconvenient ones. And they do this instead of looking at the entire historical picture and drawing a conclusion from that. And doing this, you can make history look however you want. And now he was talking about this a while ago, but even nowadays, this is happening significantly. I'm going to get into that in other videos that I do, so I'm not going to waste the time talking about it now, but that will come into play a lot in other videos. And so his second thing he explained was, it is not wise to judge history from today's perspective, because hindsight is always 20/20, and we look at the outcomes of choices made and decisions made and actions taken, and so we know if a decision to do something was right or wrong, good or bad. Not only this, but societal norms and morals change constantly throughout history, and it would be very arrogant of us to think that future generations won't judge us as harshly as we judge past generations for things that we deem acceptable today that they will deem immoral. Now, he pointed out a better way of judging history, although he admitted, and I agree with him, it's almost impossible to do. Now, you have to almost look at history, if you are going to judge history, which may actually be the best thing to do, may not be to judge it at all, but if you are going to, really you should look at it if you only had the information of the person making that choice or doing that action. So you have absolutely no idea of what the outcome would be, what would happen after that, any of the consequences of those decisions or actions. Would you have made a different one just given their knowledge that they had at the time, and would yours have been any better? Now, he admitted it is very hard to do this because we do know the outcomes and we do have our social norms and accepted morality, and it is very hard to move those out of our focus and look at it from their perspective. A good example of this is, for instance, slavery. Through most of history, slavery was absolutely acceptable. We have socially evolved to a point where it is not acceptable anymore, and that's a great thing in my opinion, and most people's, admittedly. But at other points in time, it was perfectly normal and acceptable to have slaves. So although we may judge them, they didn't know any better, so how could they have known better? You know, like it's a hard thing to suggest that they were bad because they had slaves, because that was what they grew up with. So imagine where if you grew up in a fake country, and they told you that, well, let's say slavery was okay. I'll continue with that example. And the only information you ever got was slavery is okay, slavery is okay, slavery is okay. There was no counter information. They controlled all the information coming in and out, and they didn't give you access to the internet in that country. All you knew that was slavery was okay, and they gave you great reasons as to why slavery was a good thing for your country and for you, and so how would you know the difference? Now, we know the difference because we've seen both sides of the coin. But if you don't see both sides, how are you going to know different? Now, there are some people that morally just, yes, they will think that, no, this is not good, but they would be the vast majority in that country. But this is how I try to look at history. This is the lens through which I do it. Now, like my prof said, it is very, very difficult, and I fail way more times than I succeed at this. It is very hard because you have to remove all of your biases and all of your personal beliefs to do this properly. And even for me, that is nearly impossible. Not only that, you also have to basically remove all of your knowledge of future or of past events that happened after that point in history. So it's almost impossible to do, admittedly. And even my prof pointed out that the best thing to do is just look at history like, well, this happened and this is how it happened, so we can argue that it would have been better to do this, but we don't even know the outcome of that, and that outcome, even though it was the best of intentions, it may have created something much worse. There's an old saying, the the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So who knows? Who knows in most cases? And number 3, the last one, very little in this world is fully good or fully bad. In reality, it is some mixture of both, some sort of shade of gray. Very few things in life are black and white. At that point, we can debate if it was better or worse, but very few things, like I say, land on either 100% good and right and 100% bad and immoral. And these lessons have really stuck with me over the years. I knew if I did a YouTube channel, I would be doing a series on the good and bad of religion, and if I did do that, I would want to share this story with you and do the same example with the Pope Pius XII and the Reichskonkordat. So, what do I think you should take away from this? Well, those 3 things that my prof explained are a good start. At the very least, never take my or anyone else's word for anything. If I, or anyone else for that matter, want to make an argument, I can use only the facts that back up my argument and not include those that don't, because I don't want to disprove my own argument. Now, I try as much as possible, except in a few occasions, to try and lay out a balanced view of things. I don't always do that. There are some topics that I just can't do that. Some included in the religious series that I have been doing. Now, I also personally think that everyone should do some digging on their own and learn for yourself. I am actually a big proponent of learning something new every day. So if you watch a YouTube video and maybe you don't know a lot about the topic, just do a little bit of digging. It doesn't take long, even if you get the bare basis of facts. I think, although you can't always trust what's on Wikipedia, I think that's a good starting point, and then you can dive deeper as you find information that you're interested in. Again, don't always trust what's on Wikipedia, but for the most part, it's fairly good at being a decent starting point, like I said. Now, I also believe a big problem today is that a lot of people are unfortunately lazy, and they just take people's word for it because it sounds like they know what they're talking about. Now, I made the 2 videos, and I do not personally agree with everything I said in either of those videos. But I had historical information and evidence proving both sides of that argument. And so on both videos, people will think I know what I'm talking about and the information is correct and not manipulated. They're not thinking that I had some sort of agenda for doing it. Most of the time, everyone has an agenda for saying what they're saying. And really, unfortunately, only they know what their agenda is, and it may either be to help you or to hurt you, and you don't know the difference. That's why I think we should not be lazy. I think everyone should do a little bit of research. You literally have a computer in your pocket with you at all times. Oh, my screen is very dirty. I'm going to have to clean that. And you can get all that information in seconds if you really want. So there's no real good excuse as to why you can't, except that you're just being lazy. So take all of my videos with a grain of salt. Take everyone's videos that you watch with a grain of salt. Don't take their word for it. And one of the best things you can do is ask yourself, why are they saying what they're saying? Is it because they're trying to get information out? Is it trying to move some sort of agenda? So on and so forth. If you can understand why they're doing what they're doing, that gives you an idea of, okay, is this something that I should believe? Is this something I should take with a grain of salt? And so on and so forth. Now, all right, done with this one. Tomorrow I will be coming out, tomorrow, probably Wednesday, because I think this video is going to be coming out on Monday. The next time I post, anyway, I'm going to release hopefully a short video on how I actually feel about Pope Pius XII and the Reichskondkordat, and give some nuance to that video. And then all that's left are the philosophical arguments and thought exercises that I have had relating to religion, which is going to be fun, at least for me anyway. I enjoy talking about that type of thing and thinking about those types of things. So that will be it for religion, and then we'll be moving on to something else. So I hope you enjoyed watching this, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.